Well, happy Mother's Day. Welcome, welcome. Really glad you're here. What a beautiful day outside. We want to say welcome to everybody joining us online as well. And for all the ladies in the room, we have a special setup for you out in the lobby. So when you leave today, you can go out there and make your bouquet of flowers. We've got a bunch of flowers out there for you to put together. Walk down the table. You can go down both sides of it. Just pick out from each little vase. Put your stuff together, and when you get to the end, there's some stuff there where it can all be tied up, and there will be some people there to help and guide you do that as well. So on your way out today, get your bouquet of flowers. Also, there is a picture spot set up, so you can get your family photo while you're here today, and you can take a serious photo, and don't forget to take the crazy photo as well, because 10 years from now, the crazy photo is the one you'll laugh at the most. So you can get one of those too. But happy Mother's Day. Really glad you're here. I'm starting a new series today called Blinkers. And I think when most of us hear the word blinkers, we probably think of the flashing light on our car. But blinkers are also that piece of horse tack where they cover their eyes so that they can't see to the rear or to the side. They can only look ahead. So its purpose is to limit the horse's field of vision so that they can't see all the way around. Now, for racehorses, that's probably a good thing. They want to keep them focused on the race ahead. But for us, preventing us from seeing what is around us is not necessarily a good thing. When I was in college, I drove to my parents' house in Kansas. And at that time, it was the longest road trip I had ever done by myself. And when you get out in Kansas, the roads are really long and straight and featureless. It's pretty easy to zone out while you're driving through all of that. So I was on the interstate cruising along in the right-hand lane, came up behind a car, and I was going to pass. So I checked my rearview mirror. I don't see anything. Put on the blinker. But there was a blinker here, and I pulled over into the other lane, and as soon as I did, I could immediately see then that there was a car behind me that I almost clipped their bumper pulling in front of them because I didn't check the blind spot. Like there's this place that I can't see. You have to turn and intentionally take a look, and so it really scared me. The guy was so close to me, I'm looking in the rearview mirror, and I kind of gave him a little sorry wave. Like, didn't mean to do that. He waved back at me, but I'm guessing at some point in his life he had a chainsaw accident because he only had one finger left. But today's more recent model cars, we have that little blind spot monitor in the rearview mirror. Somebody gets up in that spot where you can't see, the little light in your mirror is on. And I have found that feature to be very helpful. But over the next few weeks, we're not going to talk about cars, but life, because all of us have kind of in our lives these blinkers that we wear around because they prevent us from seeing things in our own lives. Other people can look at us and see those things in our lives, but we seem to be blind to a lot of them. So between now and Father's Day, I'm going to talk about some issues like anger and arrogance and bitterness, things that we have trouble seeing in our own lives. And each week we're going to take a look at an Old Testament character that demonstrated that trait in their life. We're going to see how it impacted them and then what to do about it in our own lives when we take an introspective look at ourselves and see that and what we can do about it. So today on Mother's Day, I'm going to start with discouragement. So I think all of us face discouragement at times, but certainly moms do. There are things, that moms go around saying all the time. Like, I'm so happy I get to do more laundry. Those sorts of things. But often it's not that way. You're worn out. There can be endless crying, nonstop messes, constant questions. There's the daily discipline, the temper tantrums of toddlers, the raging hormones of teenagers. And even after the kids are grown and out of the house, there's still those moments of discouragement when you're wondering, what in the world are they thinking? making that decision, going there, spending money in that way. Like we wonder, when are they ever going to make some right decisions? It can be discouraging at times. And so being a mom can be unmatched blessings, but it can be unmatched discouragement as well. Being a mom of young children, I'm told, can be longing for the day that they grow up while simultaneously hoping they never do. Like there's that dichotomy that goes on within us. So we're going to look at a woman in the Bible today named Hannah. It's in 1 Samuel chapter 1. If you have your Bible and you want to open there, we're going to be taking a look at her story. Hannah was married to a guy named Elkanah, and Hannah was discouraged. The words used in the text to describe her are words like downhearted, weeping, anguish, miserable, forgotten, deeply troubled. Those are all the words that describe her. Are any of those words describing you today? Just downhearted? Anybody weeping today because of things going on in your life? So a lot of us can identify with that. And I want us to look at what caused her discouragement and then what she did about it that can speak into our lives today when we face those times of discouragement as well. So let's begin with the cause. In chapter 1, verse 2, here's what the Bible says. Elkanah, that's the husband, had 2 wives. Well, there's the cause right there. Don't have to read much farther than that, do we? It's like, that's going to cause some trouble. He had 2 wives. One was called Hannah. That's the lady we're looking at today. The other was Peninnah. Peninnah had children. Hannah had none. And so year after year, this man went up from his town to worship and sacrifice to the Lord. So that was a part of the Old Testament law that they would go to the temple to worship. So he would go up, and so year after year he did that. And he worshiped there at Shiloh, where Hophni and Phinehas, the 2 sons of Eli, were the priests of the Lord. Whenever the day came for Elkanah to sacrifice, he would give portions of the meat to his wife Peninnah and to all of her sons and daughters. But to Hannah, he gave a double portion because he loved her, and the Lord had closed her womb. Because the Lord had closed Hannah's womb, her rival, Peninnah, kept provoking her in order to irritate her. They're like 2 kids, like one wife provoking the other. So what we find here is that Hannah is a sister wife. All right? That's TV. That's what they call them now, I guess, sister wives. Polygamy was common in that day. We read about a number of men in the Bible who had more than one wife. What's interesting is, though, you read all those stories in the Bible about the men who had more than one wife, it never went well. Ever. You never read a story in the Bible about a guy that had multiple wives and it said, and all the wives lived happily ever after. Like, there was always trouble when they had more than one wife. So we read about David having more than one wife, and we read about the trouble that he had between them. Solomon, the same story. Abraham, Isaac, all the same story. And it's the same for Elkanah. You would think these men would learn somewhere along the way. Never did. Like, oh yeah, I'll take another wife. That sounds awesome to me. But the wives don't get along. And so Hannah's sister wife, Peninnah, has children by their husband Elkanah, but Hannah is unable to conceive. And so here's the first cause of her discouragement. She was wishing life were different. That's what she wanted. She wanted something different. And because she wanted something different and didn't have it, that was causing all of this anguish in her life. This isn't how she thought marriage and motherhood would go for her. She thought she would get married, she would have kids, she would be happy. And on top of the discouragement of not having kids, she has this other wife in the family who is like fertile myrtle and just keeps popping them out. Like, I want kids so bad and you just keep having them. She has, the Bible says, many sons and daughters. It's kind of like, every 9 months, like, oh, you're pregnant again? Good for you. And she just can't have any of her own, and she's desperately desiring. And to make matters worse, Peninnah rubs it in. It's not like this, oh, I really do feel bad for you. No, it doesn't go that way at all. It's like, she's probably making up names for Hannah, calling her, you can't have kids, pointing out, well, my sons and I are going. Mother's Day has come around, and my kids gave to me, and there's Hannah. And she's wishing life were different. Now, perhaps some of you are discouraged because life is not going the way that you want it to go. Not the way you envisioned life would be. When you were younger and dreaming about how life was going to happen. The job that you thought you were going to have, the house you thought you would live in, the kind of life you thought you would lead, the trips that you thought you would take, the joy that you thought you would fill, the kind of person that you would marry, the kids that you would have, and it's just not going that way at all. And it just feels like your dreams have been crushed. And maybe some of you are struggling with the same issue that Hannah struggled with. It's an issue of infertility. And if so, today can be the most discouraging day of all. Because you come to church and there's this celebration and recognition for moms, and you're wanting to be a mom so bad, and it's just not happening for you. Statistics show that 1 in 6 couples struggles with infertility, and after the age of 35, that jumps to 1 in 3. So it's a common source of frustration for a lot of women. One study said that women who had struggled with infertility and had also gone through a divorce said that the pain of infertility was greater than the pain of the divorce. I think a lot of us might not recognize that. That same study said that women who had experienced infertility and also had experienced a life-threatening illness said the pain of the two was about the same. But one psychologist explained that infertility is especially difficult because if you're going through something like a life-threatening illness, everybody around you recognizes it and they know they need to support you. And so they pray for you and they talk to you about it and they help you and they start the meal trains and they get everything going and you get the support of everybody around you. But when you're going through infertility, you feel alone. And no one recognizes the pain that you're experiencing, and so there's no support that's coming for that. Hannah was especially discouraged because in that culture it was considered a blessing to have children and a curse of God if you didn't. They thought that if you couldn't have children, it's because God was preventing you from having children because of a sin that was in your life. So everybody's looking at Peninnah going, oh, what a godly woman you are. And they're looking at Hannah and going, what terrible sin have you committed? And so she's got not only the weight of not having children, but the weight of everybody looking at her that way. But there are a number of women in the Bible who couldn't have kids, yet the Bible describes them as godly and righteous. So we know now that that's not the case, but at that time, that's the way they felt about it. But aside from infertility, is there something in your life that you've just been discouraged about? Where all of those words that are in this text talking about Hannah could apply to you. Miserable, weeping, discouraged. What's going on in your life that's bringing you to that point? So maybe it's not kids, but maybe it's financial, or it's your health, or a job, or it's where you live, or the way you look. Do you feel ugly and that brings discouragement to you? Do you feel that you wish you looked different? Like you look at everybody else around you and you feel like they're attractive and that people respond to them in a different way, but for you, you're just, you're stick thin and have no hair and a big nose and pasty white, and you just look at everybody else around you and you think, man, they're so much better looking than me. What in your life are you discouraged about? Discouragement often comes from wanting something different than what we have. But a second cause of discouragement is when your troubling circumstances go on for a long time. You know, I think often we can deal with trouble in our life that lasts for a short time, but when it goes on for a long time, even if it's a small thing, it starts getting to us. Verse 7 tells us about Hannah and Peninnah poking fun at Hannah. This went on year after year. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, her rival provoked her till she wept and she wouldn't eat. Her husband Elkanah would say to her, "Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons?" I remember talking to a friend some years back, and he was generally a happy person, but I saw him at church one day, and this was in Florida. He just seemed especially irritated and discouraged that day. So I asked him what was wrong, and he said, it's just no big deal. He said, but I have tinnitus, which is that constant ringing in your ears. Or is it tinnitus? I've heard it pronounced on TV both ways. Like I've always heard it tinnitus, and then I heard a commercial and they pronounced it tinnitus, and I thought, which way? So I looked it up. It turns out both ways are pronounced correctly. In Britain, they say tinnitus, and in America, we say tinnitus, which means tinnitus is the correct way. So that's it. But he just said, I just have this ringing in my ears all the time, and I know it's no big deal. I know other people have so much more serious problems, but it just never goes away, and I have trouble sleeping. I lay down at night, and I just hear this ringing in my ears, and I can't go to sleep because of it, and it's driving me crazy. And Hannah has been dealing with infertility for years, and Peninnah has been taunting her for years, and it's driving her crazy. Even small things over a long period of time eventually get to us. And then her husband, Elkanah, I guess we should give him points for trying. Why are you so downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons? And she wanted to say, no. No, you don't. In fact, if I could have kids without you, I'd get rid of you. But I'm trying. You know, he thinks that she's won the husband lottery. That ought to be enough for her. But she's just reached that point. And maybe you're discouraged about something, and you're having trouble even talking about it with somebody else because it seems so small. Like you feel embarrassed to even mention this as something that's giving you discouragement in life because you know other people have so much bigger problems than you do. But when it goes on for a long time, it gets to us. You know, maybe your marriage isn't that bad. You think, I know people who have much worse marriages than me, but it just feels so lifeless. I don't know how many times I've told my husband to pick his wet towel up off the bathroom floor and he just won't do it. I don't know how many times I've told my wife, squeeze the toothpaste from the end, not the middle. Just won't do it. It's the small things that can happen. It's like your job provides a good income, but it's been a couple of decades and your boss still doesn't appreciate your contributions. You're reasonably proud of your grown kids, but there are still those decisions that they make, and even though they've been out of the house for 10 years, they still expect you to pay their car insurance. Did that one strike a nerve with somebody? It's like your health is pretty good, but you've just had back pain as far back as you can remember. And discouragement grows over time, but you feel pressured to pretend like everything is okay. So I want us to look at what Hannah did. The first thing she did was she got up and she prayed. Verse 9. Once when they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh, so that's where they went to worship, Hannah got up Now Eli the priest was sitting on his chair by the doorpost of the Lord's house, and in her deep anguish, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly. You know, often when we're discouraged and we get to that point, we just don't want to do anything. We don't want to get up and we don't want to pray. We want to sit on the couch, we want to mope, we want to feel sorry for ourselves, we become lethargic, we never get out of our pajamas, we might not even shower or brush our teeth, and everything feels like a chore when we get to that point where we are so discouraged. But even though Hannah was discouraged, and she was downhearted and weeping and in anguish and miserable and deeply troubled, she took some action. She got up and she prayed. She did something about it. She didn't just sit on the couch all the day saying, woe is me, things are so bad, this is getting worse, life is not going the way that I want it to, my sister wife keeps making fun of me, nothing is ever getting better, it's been year after year, this has been going on. She got up and she did something about it. So often that's hard for us to do when we get to that point. We just want to mope and wallow in our misery. So she got up and she prayed, and in her prayer, she surrendered everything that she wanted to God. God, I've been wanting this child for years. Nothing is happening. I surrender this issue to you. I can't do anything about it. Verse 11, she made a vow saying, Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head. Now, this thing about the razor, no razor ever used on his head, that was a part of the Nazirite vow. So they had this thing back in that day where they would make a special commitment of their child to the Lord. And so there were promises that were made. The child would never drink wine or eat grapes or raisins or anything like that came off of a vine. They would never touch a dead body, and they would never shave their head. Samson, you remember, famous for his long hair? That's because he was a Nazirite. His parents had made that promise as well. So that's what Hannah is saying. God, if you will give me a son, if you will give me a child, no razor will ever be used on his head. I give him to you. Give me a son, I give him to you. So Hannah was saying, I will submit him to you. Now, this is not a statement of negotiation. This is not a God, if you give me this, I'll give you this. Because when you have nothing to offer, there can't be a negotiation. This was surrender. This was saying, God, I've wanted this so bad. I have wanted a child so bad. It isn't happening. This has got to be happening for a reason. I surrender the whole situation to you. And so if this is something that you would do, I'm giving the child to you. Like I've always wanted the child for me. I surrender all of that. I give the child to you. So she got up. She prayed, and in her prayer was a complete surrender. The next verse says, as she kept on praying to the Lord, Eli, the priest, observed her mouth. Hannah was praying in her heart, and her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. Eli thought she was drunk. And he said to her, how long are you going to stay drunk? Put away your wine. Like, there's some encouragement from the priest, isn't it? Like you're praying, you're pouring your heart out to God. Quit drinking, woman. Not so, my Lord, Hannah replied. I'm a woman who is deeply troubled. I've not been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord. Do not take your servant for a wicked woman. I've been praying here out of my great anguish and grief. And so Eli answered, go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you've asked of him. She said, may your servant find favor in your eyes. And then she went on her way, and she ate something, and her face was no longer downcast. So, she was discouraged. She prayed and surrendered. Eli said, may God grant your request. Now, I want you to take note that Eli is not able to grant her request. He can't promise her a child. He's just agreeing with her request. He's just saying, I also pray that God gives you what you're looking for. And then I want you to notice that it says, she was no longer sad. Now that's kind of weird, I think, because nothing in her situation has changed. She's not pregnant. God has not promised her a child. No angel came and said, you will conceive and be with child, and you will call his name Samuel. Nothing like that ever happened, yet she's no longer discouraged. So why is her discouragement relieved if nothing has changed? Because she got up and she prayed and she surrendered what she wanted to God. This is what I've been looking for all my life. I've been sad because I don't have it. I surrender my desires to you. God, you're in charge of my life. You give me what you know is best. You provide for me, and I will be satisfied. This shifted her focus. She got her eyes off of herself and what she wanted and how she thought her life would be different and the way that it would go. And she simply said, God, this really isn't my life. This is your life. My life is your life. I live it for you. Whatever you want to happen, I'm happy with that. And verse 19 concludes the story. Early the next morning, they arose and worshiped before the Lord and then went back to their home in Ramah. Elkanah made love to his wife Hannah, and the Lord remembered her. So in the course of time, Hannah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel, saying, because I asked the Lord for him. Now I want you to pay attention to that phrase, in the course of time. So we don't know how long that was. See, in the text that comes next, so it kind of feels like she prayed, she went home, her husband made love to her, and she's pregnant. But it says, in the course of time. How long was that time? A few months, a few years? We don't know. But often we have to wait. We just surrender our life to God. What are you discouraged about? What in your life isn't going the way that you envisioned it would go? What is it that you've been saying? Year after year, I've been asking for this and nothing is changing. And you're downhearted in anguish and you're miserable because of it. Surrender that to God. And that doesn't mean that God is going to give you what you want right away. Or maybe at all. But how do we overcome being miserable? By surrendering what we want to God. God, my life is for you. And whatever you want for me, I'm going to be happy with that. So what is it that you're sitting on the couch moping about? What do you need to get up and pray about? A family matter, a past hurt, seeing no hope for the future, a desire for something different. Maybe your circumstances aren't going to change. Maybe they're not going to change anytime soon. But if you surrender your desires to God and accept His work in your life as good, your focus will shift from the problem that you have and on to the goodness of God and the blessings that He has provided, that He has poured out for you, and then you will no longer be sad. 1 Peter 5 says, humble yourselves under God's mighty hand that He may lift you up in due time. See, not right away. God's building patience in us in due time. Cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you. So what anxiety do you need to cast on the Lord today? Did you have trouble just getting out of bed this morning to get here? Because you are discouraged. Get up and pray and surrender what you're looking for in your life to God. So we're going to sing together. But instead of me praying this morning, I want you to pray this morning. And maybe you would just prefer to pray right sitting where you are about whatever it is that you're discouraged about. But do what Hannah did. Pray. Surrender what you're looking for to God. But maybe some of you would like to pray with somebody else. And so we're going to have some prayer people up in the corners right here at the front. And so if you would want to pray with somebody, have them pray for you, get up and come and pray.